Welcome, everybody. I have a young gentleman with me. Right, thank you. He's just said a young, fit gentleman. Bless you, thank you. Okay. He is from South Africa, thank you. And his name is Private William Stone. Okay. Right, okay. He's telling me that he always wanted a sense of adventure, and he'd been at sea. All right, okay. He says just a deckhand. That's all. He says I wasn't in the navy. He says it was a ship. Yep. Right. Okay. Passenger ship. Thank you, sir. And right. Okay. Mercury. What does that mean, sir? Mercury. Okay. He just said it doesn't matter. Move on. Let's move on. Okay. He wanted a sense of adventure, and he decided they docked into port, and it got fed up of being at sea, really. Yeah, I will tell them that. Yes, I will. He's telling me to tell you that he joined the 3rd Battalion. Okay, he's saying it's an infantry regiment, a South African regiment. Okay, right, okay, fine. And he went, and yeah, he says we got trained. He says I was very fit. He says, and I could outrun anybody. He says I was really a fit man. And okay, they went after they trained. They went across to World War One. Right, thank you, sir. World War One, and he's saying that they were in the trenches, and yeah, right, okay. He's saying that they were at the Somme. Right. He's saying it was very bleak. He said it was winter time when we got there. He says, and the rats were rife in the trenches. He says, and it was raining all the time. He says, and it was really, really cold. And they didn't have any overcoats. He says, they couldn't afford them. He says, the army couldn't afford them. He says, they gave you a blanket, and that was it. Yeah. Right, okay. He says he used to cook his dinner in his helmet. And yeah. He says, we were more or less outside all the time. He says, we did have dugouts, thank you, dugouts. But he says, you couldn't escape the water. You were up to your knees in water. Right, sir. All right, okay. He's saying that it came towards springtime. He says, and he says there was a glimmer of hope. He says, we'd done patrols and skirmishes and things like this. He says, but nothing outrageous. He says, and it got towards April time. He says, and there was a glimmer of hope with the sunshine. He says, but we used to look. Yeah. Right. Okay. They had a periscope that they used to look over the trenches. He says, and it was just craters. This is bomb craters full of water. Full of water. It was horrible, muddy, deep mud place. Yeah. Okay. And he's saying that right, thank you, one evening, he says, he'd just written to his family. And he says, I'll never forget it. He says, it was 1916. He says, in we all had to stand in a line. He says, ready to go over the top. He says, and they said, right, this is it. This is going to end everything. He says, this is going to end all the fighting. He says, we're going to go across to the Bosch. These are his words. He says, and we're going to win. That's it, done. And they were really excited. And this is that they gave him some water, a little drink of water with brandy in it. He says, and they blew the whistle. We went over the top. He says, and I got to an area which is he thought it was ground, and it wasn't. It was muddy water, and he got hit, and he fell what he thought was onto the ground, and he fell into a very deep crater full of water and mud. He says, I hadn't got a chance. He says, I just sunk. He says, I don't know if I got to the bottom. I don't know anything. He says, because the next thing, a hand came into the water and grabbed me by the arm and pulled me out. And it was a friend of mine. And he says, come on, war's over for us. He says, and the next thing, he says, was in a beautiful garden. He says, absolutely beautiful garden. He says, and there were lots of us. He says, and there were angels there and everything. And he says, it was really bright light that was at this garden. But he says, I could smell the grass. He says, and the flowers. He says, and they sat down and all the angels clapped us. And he says that, yeah. He says, and I got no fear whatsoever. And then an angel had his great grandfather with him, who he knew, and he'd also been in the army in Africa. And he says, do you know where you are? And he said, no. And he says, you're in heaven. And this young lad, William, said, am I back in Africa? And he said, no. And he says, I realised then that I'd gone. He says, that I'd paid the ultimate price, he said. Anyway, he says, not to worry. He says, I'm with all my family and with all my friends. He says, and as time has gone on, he says, they've also come up. He says, but I'm still in my uniform. He says, my proud pressed uniform. But anyway, he says, I'm happy here. He says, I can't get hurt here anymore. And I didn't want to be reborn. He says, I want to stay here. with my family. Bless you, sir. Thank you. And on that note, I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.